Good morning and welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming to our very special celebration of President Kennedy's legacy in space. It's a very special day for the Kennedy Library as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing. My family is so proud of my father's vision and his confidence in the American people, and I'm especially happy that two of my children are here today to be part of this history. Before I start though, I want to thank the people here at the Kennedy Library who have worked so hard to bring this day to all of us. Starting with Rachel Floor and her team, Alan Price, Stephen Rothstein, the curators, the archivists. It's really been a team effort, and I just hope that we could all give them a round of applause. President Kennedy knew that by uniting Americans in a common goal that would advance democracy, he would inspire American excellence in science, technology, engineering, but also imagination, dedication, courage, and patriotism. In doing so, he changed the course of history and improved the lives of people on Earth. All my life, people have told me that my father changed their lives. He asked them to give back to this country that's given us all so much. In his speech at the 1960 convention, he asked Americans to join him in crossing a new frontier. In his inaugural address, President Kennedy challenged Americans with his immortal call to service. In response, they marched for civil rights and human rights. They served in the Peace Corps and later the Job Corps. President Kennedy mobilized an entire generation who transformed America. Foremost among them were the 400,000 people who worked to fulfill the goal of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth in less than 10 years. Like other veterans, they were engaged in an all-out effort for freedom and democracy. They proved that America is the greatest country on Earth, and they gave it everything they had. From the unsung weave workers who sewed the belts for the earliest computers in Massachusetts, to hidden figures like NASA's Katherine Johnson, who performed critical calculations for John Glenn's flight, for famous rocket engineers and brilliant scientists, to the heroic astronauts who risked their lives and their families who worried and watched, they embodied the very best of America. President Kennedy saw space as a new frontier, a new ocean, waiting to be discovered. He believed that the peaceful exploration of space would expand our sense of the possible, allow us to do the unimaginable, and would make life better here on Earth. Over the past 50 years, as my father has become part of history rather than living memory, historians have brought different aspects of his legacy to the fore. But over time, I've watched new generations find meaning in the decision to send a man to the moon. Not just meaning for mankind or for America, but meaning for their own lives. The speech at Rice University has become part of American mythology and American history, and it inspires each generation to reach for the stars. President Kennedy's vision came true 50 years ago, but the reason we're here today is not just to celebrate the past, but like he did, to be part of the future. Right now, we're standing on the edge of the next space frontier. In the past few months alone, China has gone to the far side of the moon. Israel and India are almost there. Japan's Hayabusa 2 mission collected soil samples from the Ryugu asteroid. Russia launched the fastest space freighter, setting a record of 3 hours and 22 minutes to the International Space Station. Europe celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Columbus module, where critical space science is conducted, and delivered the new Orion service module that will take NASA astronauts back to the moon. And for the first time, astronomers linked 8 telescopes on Earth and others in space to photograph a black hole 55 million light years away. There's a revolution happening in space travel and tourism. small satellite technology, and public-private partnerships to return to the moon, Mars, and beyond. Many of the people at the forefront of those efforts are here today, and we're so lucky to be able to hear from them. As visionary as President Kennedy was, the space race of the 1960s was anchored in time and place. The United States versus the Soviet Union, the Cold War, freedom versus totalitarianism in the nuclear age, militarization versus the peaceful use of space. He hoped that one day the United States could cooperate with other countries to advance the frontiers of human knowledge. In fact, over the objections of his advisors and many in the US military, he proposed a joint US-Soviet mission to the moon in his last speech at the United Nations. I can only imagine how happy he would have been to know that Russia has carried American astronauts to the space station for the last 10 years and to watch 15 countries build and operate the International Space Station for the last 20 years. No matter how difficult and divided we are here on Earth, all we have to do is look up at the sky and remember that men and women from different countries are living and working together, expanding human knowledge and discovery, and showing us all that we can depend and trust one another. When I was serving as US Ambassador to Japan, I saw that cooperation firsthand. I attended the launch of a NASA JAXA mission that is critical to understanding Earth's climate, the Global Precipitation Measurement Satellite. I joined the Prime Minister of Japan when he called the ISS to congratulate its first Japanese commander, my friend Dr. Koichi Wakata, who has come all the way from Tokyo to be with us today. To see and hear an American, a Russian, and a Japanese astronaut talk about how they cooperated 250 miles up in space gave me a renewed appreciation for how much we can all do to build understanding here on Earth. It was one of the most powerful moments of my life. Before I turn this over to our extraordinary panel, I want the audience to know how amazing this is. Astronauts are in such demand that it is almost impossible to get one astronaut to come and speak, much less 5 from around the world. Their willingness to be here is a tribute to what President Kennedy's space legacy still means to people internationally. And it's hard to describe how much it means to me personally. First, I want to thank Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Captain Chris Cassidy for his help in putting this international panel together. We first met at the 50th anniversary of President Kennedy's inaugural address, when he told me that not only was he born in Massachusetts, but he was going to take a medallion of President Kennedy with him into space. We're also thrilled to welcome NASA astronaut, chemist, and veteran of 3 spacewalks, Dr. Tracy Caldwell Dyson, and her mother is here today with us as well. Russian cosmonaut, ISS commander, and medical doctor, Dr. Oleg Kosov, who has spent his career studying the effects of space on the human body, and European Space Agency senior astronaut, Paolo Nespoli, who has logged 3 missions in space, and whose countryman, Luca Parmitano, will become the first Italian commander of the ISS on the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. We're also fortunate to have leading presidential historian and Rice University professor Douglas Brinkley as our moderator. I hope you will all read his book, American Moonshot. I try not to read books about my family, but this was the best chronicle of one of the most exciting times in American history that I've ever read. We're grateful to him for returning to the library today and hope that he will answer the question once and for all: why does Rice play Texas? Thank you very much.